Paddy Ashdown, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Pleasure.
Will there even be a Liberal Democrat Party in 10 years' time?
They said that to me in 1989 when I took over as leader, and my answer was yes, and I was right and they were wrong.
Yes.
They've said it for 100 years plus. You know, the Liberal Democrats are the Liberals are bound to disappear. They won't, because this is basically a liberal country and we're the only party who represents that liberal viewpoint. And by the way, liberalism is the only answer that there is to the modern age. Conservatism, socialism, these are all dead creeds that no one believes in any longer. But we're the only internationalist party. We're the party who understands the balance between individual freedom and the role of the state. We don't believe in big government. We believe in powerful citizens. That's the modern age, and I think we can meet that.
How sure are you? 100%?
Listen, any person who says they're sure of the outcome of ballot boxes is showing an unbelievable complacency on the one hand and arrogance to the electorate on the other. Everything is possible. But on a rational balance of calculations, I think we've got a great message. I think we have done what's in the national interest, putting the country first rather than our party first in the coalition. We've helped to bring this country through the worst economic recession of its time, brought about in large measure, not totally, but in large measure by Labour's bungling handling of the economy. And I think you get credit for that. I think the British electorate are extremely intelligent, and I think that they, when it comes to consider a general election, they look at the record and they think, hang on, these guys have stood the pressure of government. Wasn't sure they could, but they can, and they have. They've been some very good ministers, and we wouldn't be out of the mess Labour put us in if it wasn't for them.
What differentiates a socialist from a Liberal Democrat?
Oh, very simple. The socialists, or at least the Labour Party, is deeply un-internationalist in its outlook. It's a Little Englander party. It doesn't believe in internationalism. We are passionately committed to internationalism, to Europe on the one hand, and to the broader internationalist agenda. And you know, the reality of our time is there are no domestic issues left any longer. They're all international issues. All your job, your environment, your crime, your health, your defence, all of these depend on working with others in the international scene. And the second and crucial difference is this, that if the Labour Party sees an inequality, they immediately, socialists, want to engineer the outcome to make us all equal at the end. I think we are all equal. I think we're different, and I think we've got different skills. Everybody should be equal before the face of God and before the justice system, but we have different talents. So if a Liberal Democrat or a Liberal sees an inequality, they don't try and engineer the outcome, they engineer extra opportunities for those who have less.
So it's equality of opportunity.
It's equality of opportunity, whereas they want equality of outcome. We believe in the individual, believe in the citizen, and want equality of opportunity.
As do the Tories.
No, I think what the Tories are, however, is a party that believes that Britain is better if it's run by people like us. I mean, I don't know what the Tory creed is, by the way. I always like to see what a politician will stand up against the wall and be shot for, and I haven't a clue what Mr. Cameron will. I think the Tories are a party that, they don't really get worried about inequalities. They don't get worried about if the top are doing well. They believe in the trickle-down policy that drags everybody else up, and I don't think it works. We now have widening levels of inequality in Britain. The Tories are perfectly happy about that. Liberals are not.
The Lib Dems mantra for the past year has been a stronger economy in a fairer society, but who doesn't want that?
Well, Labour doesn't want to. Labour's proved that they were not able to have a stronger economy. They wrecked the economy, and what that says, if Labour is the government next time, we're working with them, we're your assurance that you'll have a stronger economy. I don't think the Tories are at all interested in a fairer society. Insofar, the things in this government that have been done, £2.25 million given to the parents of the poorest kids to help them in school, lifting everybody below £10,000 out of taxation altogether, giving people a £600 tax reduction on the 27 million at the lowest level of wages. That's Liberal Democrat policy. It's because of us that that's happened. So I think there's a third element you miss, by the way. A strong economy, Labour won't give you that, but we will guarantee it. A fair society, the Tories won't give you that, but we'll guarantee it. And powerful citizens. We don't believe in the powerful state, we believe the powerful citizens. So, Freedom of Information Act, who is it that threw out the Snoopers Charter, the Liberal Democrats? Who is it that determined to ensure that we have a system of government based on individual civil liberties and rights? Liberal Democrats, all of those things only we offer.
Are politicians honest enough with the public?
I don't think that's the problem. I think politicians are what politicians have always been. I think the problem of our time is not the question of honesty. I think it's much more a question that politics has become when I joined politics, I entered the House of Commons, it was a clash of great ideas. This was a set of creeds and principles that you fought others on: socialism, capitalism, liberalism. Nowadays, politics has become mere managerialism. If you listen to Mr. Blair, if you listen to Mr. Cameron, they said, actually, we're not going to change very much, we'll just deliver it more efficiently. So I think what we lack is the creeds. I mean, apart from the creed of liberalism, none of the others make sense. But what a set of belief and principles that hold you to politics means is that you have a sheet anchor that holds the ship's head into the storm when the wind blows hard. And if you look at Mr. Cameron's number 10 and Mr. Blair's number 10, any headline in the Daily Mail will drive them off what they were going to do, because they're responding to events. We have a set of beliefs that we hold to.
What state would this country be in, do you think, if you had gone into a multi-party coalition, if the Lib Dems had gone into a multi-party coalition with the Labour Party, not the Tories, in 2010?
Oh, I mean, disastrous in my view. I mean, it was something we had to look into, otherwise we'd have no bargaining power with the Tories. But the answer is we wouldn't have had a majority in the House of Commons. We would not have been able to get through the tough policies that were necessary to put the economy right, because you can't do that with a minority government. Labour, I think, was not in a mood to govern, didn't want to help clear up the mess they'd made. They had we're going to do far better in opposition strategy. So it wouldn't have worked. I mean, frankly, it wouldn't have worked.
What does that say about your hopes for next year then? Is that damaging to...
Well, whatever your likes and dislikes, and I spent my entire time fighting the Tories, and don't imagine I like them now. No, I don't. They have a totally different set of views. But whatever views you have, coalitions are not formed because you think his eyes are blue and his aren't. They're formed because the British public says this is the combination of parties we want. And if your addition to another party is the only way you can get a majority in the House of Commons, that's the will of the electorate. Like them or not, you've got to do it. That's what we did, in the national interest.
Is there a chance the Liberal Democrats will, after the 2015 general election, have the most seats in the House of Commons?
Listen, I never predict the outcome of elections. Nothing's ever impossible. I have to say it's not terribly likely, but don't discount anything.
But if it's not at all likely, I think most people would agree, then what's the point in voting for Lib Dem? If I vote Tory, I want a Tory government. If I vote Labour, I want a Labour government.
I'm not sure you do actually any longer. I think people now say, look at the coalition and say, hang on, this is quite a good idea, that the most ridiculous excesses built on the prejudices of the Labour Party and the Tory Party, they don't have an electoral dictatorship. That was Lord Hailsham who called it that, who drives it through. We rather like the idea of politicians working together, and if one party restrains the excesses of the other, I think that's quite a good thing. So I think the coalition has been an extraordinary success, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if the British people in their wisdom said, actually, we quite like that form of government. In the end, we'd like a predominantly Labour government or a predominantly Tory government, or ultimately, I suppose, possible a predominantly Liberal government. But the idea of two parties forced to work together in the national interest is something I think the public is likely to want to see more of.
I think it was 2/3 of the population that thought Nick Clegg had been beaten by Nigel Farage in those European debates. Do you agree?
No, I don't actually. But I mean, I think that ignores one enormous fact, which is that great gap where the argument for Europe should have been put has been completely empty. It's been abandoned by politicians for 20 years, for a generation. Nick Clegg is the first person to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to run away from this argument, which every other politician has done. By the way, I didn't do it as much as I should as a Liberal Democrat leader. And he said, I'm going to try and fill that space. It's in my country's interest to do so. So I think he showed great courage in taking this on. This is not the end of the debate, it's the start of it. We now know who is leading on this issue of we want to stay in Europe. It's the Liberal Democrats. Of course, he wasn't going to overturn the opinion supported by all the mass tabloid newspapers for the last 30 years in a single session. Did you really expect he would?
But if the majority of the public do side with Nigel Farage, as it's indicated at the moment, what sort of liberal democracy is that? It's disregarding the
I think there is a... by the way, I don't think that'll happen. I think that Mr. Farage is a political movement, not yet a political party. I mean, there's nothing that unites them, no philosophy, no creed. They're united by nostalgia on the one hand, dislike of foreigners on the other, and distrust of Westminster on the third. Powerful movement, but not a political party. If they can come out with a coherent manifesto that can unite the party and is attractive to voters in a civilized country, that's a different thing. But no, I think you're right. I think the great challenge before us now is actually is a broadly liberal, tolerant, international, outwardly engaged a country like Britain going to survive, or is it going to become inward-looking? Is it going to become isolationist, as Mr. Farage would want? Is it going to turn in on its own population because you don't like the colour of their skin, or you don't like where they came from, or they speak with a strange accent on the train? If that's the case, then all of those great advances we have made, and you see it especially in London where UKIP did not well at all, will be gone. And all of those things that make me proud to be British, tolerant, outward-looking, engaged, multicultural, pluralist in its approach, all of those things I think are at risk. Yeah.
Yep. And penultimately, was Vince Cable treacherous in failing to stop a plot against Nick Clegg?
Listen, I think that you have to take what Vince Cable said on its face value. He said, I wasn't involved in this, and it's quite right not to be. I think that Lord Oakeshott was going well. I mean, he may have been a friend of Mr. Cable's, I believe he was, but I think he was going well beyond his brief, and you get the answer to it by the clear, almost brutal rejection of what he did, what Mr. Lord Oakeshott did by Vince Cable. I think that gives you the lie to the question.
Yeah. And finally, Lord Ashdown, if I was a betting man, who would you advise me to put this £10 note on to lead the next Liberal Democrat Party?
I advise you not to bet.
Okay, thank you. But on that question, who do you think will be the next Liberal Democrat?
Well, the question isn't asked, so how can you... The question is neither asked nor on the paper. When it is asked, I'll be able to give you an answer. But
will you?
You can't, I suspect, but I don't think you can bet on a hypothetical question that isn't even on the ballot paper at the moment. And not likely to be either.
We might take that as an invitation to ask you when the question is there. Paddy Ashdown, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure. Thanks, Oscar.